Hi guys, welcome back to the Drive Life channel. Today you join me on my way home from work. We are currently 142 miles away from home, heading up the M4 back to Herefordshire, and this is a drive I'm now going to be doing every week. Once a week I'm driving down to Surrey for work commitments and back home to Herefordshire, so I thought it's a great time to answer a lot of you guys' questions. I think what we'll do is I want to answer these questions in depth, so you guys will submit your questions like you have done, and I've been saving up quite a few comments and questions that you guys have had for the start of this. And what I want you to do is comment at the bottom of this video sort of themes or questions you want answered in the next week's video. I'll try and do one of these every week while I'm on my way home. So you may notice that I'm not in the Volvo, I'm in the Sprinter van. That's because I'm actually staying down in Surrey one night a week now, which is pretty cool. It's brilliant to drive this thing, lovely view over everything, so really looking forward to doing this more often. It's my second week doing it now, and I've loved it so far. So what I'll do is I'll turn the camera around, because you guys probably don't want to see me for the next, I don't know how this video is going to be, and today we're going to talk about what I do for a living, and what I have done for a living, because it's quite it's an interesting story. I've done quite a few random things, so yeah, buckle up. It's probably going to be more of a podcasting type video, so if you free time and want to listen to it, then yes. It's not going to be much visually on this video apart from mostly the M4, so yeah, let's get you guys into a better position and we'll get started. Okay then, so what do I do for a living? I think we'd better start from the start on what I studied at university. So went to obviously primary, high school, went to college. I actually failed my first year of college. I was studying on history, law, maths, physics, and I actually failed maths, which wasn't great, because at the time I wanted to be an engineer. We were looking at university courses to be an engineer, and it soon became apparent that to be honest, I don't think I was willing to put in the amount of time required to be able to deal with A-level maths. I eventually passed it, but failed my first year. But I'd always been interested in the law, the police, all of that sort of thing. So eventually got through college, having to do 3 years, where I actually met Mrs. DL. She was a big influence on getting me through college, because I was just not that committed to it. I was fed up of education and wasn't focused on college at all. So she, to be fair to her, was actually a year below me, and so I was then finished in her year, if that makes sense. And she grabbed hold of me and made me butt my ideas up. Now, we actually met when we were both working as lifeguards at the local swimming pool. Something I started when I was 16, and something I enjoyed doing. So I worked as a lifeguard, and I was actually sort of like the head lifeguard, and she started, and she shadowed me on her first shift, and the rest is history, as they say. We've been together 7 years nearly. So we've been together ever since, and that just happened to be when I was in my third year of college that we met. She, like I said, helped me get through all of that. So I then went to university. Now, I didn't do university in the traditional way. I liked living at home. I lived with my parents at the time in Herefordshire. I didn't want to leave Herefordshire. I just wanted to get a degree so I could get a proper job. So I went to the University of Worcester, but I lived at home, commuted into Worcester, which is only an hour or so away from where I lived, twice a week, and studied applied criminology, which was all things to do with crime, why people commit crime, and the applied bit was actually you went and worked out in the field, which was quite interesting. So we did 3 major sort of placements during the course. First one I did was part of the security team at the university. Actually, it was quite interesting learning all that sort of side of things. And then, well, the whole point of going to uni was because I actually fancied joining the police. I'd watched traffic cops ever since I was a little kid, and knew that it was something that I probably wanted to do as a career. Have something that was very different every day, where I'm out and about, a bit of excitement. You know, I love cars, so I thought that sort of thing would be ideal. So I actually joined in 2018 West Mercia Police as a special constable. And for those of you who don't know what that is, you're basically a police officer that's voluntary. A lot of people use it as a way into the full-time police, which was what I was planning to do. And you have all the same sort of powers and responsibilities of a normal police officer, except you don't get paid. But the benefit is you can work it around what else you do. So I was obviously working as the lifeguard, studying university, and then was doing policing shift every weekend, and sort of evenings where I could fit it in. So that was going on in the background as well. And my second year placement was actually as part of it's a criminal drug and alcohol rehabilitation centre, which was possibly one of the most eye-opening things I've ever done, and I thoroughly recommend doing it. It was an amazing place to work. The people I met or people I was working with, they were, well, we had service users who were all I would say criminals. They were people who'd been convicted of offences, and they're sort of being given a punishment, but also an opportunity to turn their lives around. And speaking to some of these people, it makes you realise what bigger things there are in the world than just people who commit crime. It's the stories behind them, their experiences, it all shapes these people into who they become. And actually, when they're taken out of a particular environment, they become normal people again. And it was amazing. It was quite some of the stuff was quite upsetting, or we had people that we worked with addictions who were doing so well and then relapsed. We had people who died from drug overdoses. So it was quite a full-on thing to be doing at 19, 20, but it really was eye-opening. I think actually taught me a lot about how the world works and how people work, as well, how human beings work. It really was an amazing experience, and something that I sort of feel very privileged to have been able to do. And then my third year placement, obviously with being a special constable, was as a special constable. So I managed to persuade my lecturers to go and let me do working as a police officer as part of my degree, which worked brilliantly actually. It was really just, this van doesn't have any air conditioning and it gets very hot because of all the glass when the sun comes out, so just to get a bit of air on me. So that was that. I finished university, and by then I'd been a special constable for 2 years on response, and that was eye-opening again, going and dealing with all sorts of emergencies, domestic abuse, car accidents, all of that sort of thing. And I sort of realised during that time that policing, as much as I loved it, it's not a job that I wanted to do forever. I wasn't willing to make the sacrifices that police officers do of their free time. There were guys who were doing 18-hour shifts. You know, there was no work-life balance at all, and it was only getting worse. And as a new sort of police officer, the money just was not where I wanted it to be. So I decided that probably wasn't something I wanted to do, but I sort of then needed a plan B. So I came out of uni, I was still working as a lifeguard and as a special constable, and I decided to stay as a special constable because I enjoyed the policing side of things and helping people, but it meant I could still be flexible and still have a life, still have the life that I wanted to. So it was quite an interesting time. At that time, Mrs. DL was trained to be a paramedic, and then COVID hit, and she also decided that she didn't really fancy being a paramedic. So we both sort of came out and had a big change of plans. So I actually then started working for a housing association, using my experience as a special constable, my experience of offenders and people in crisis and that sort of thing, and my degree had an element of crisis management in it as well. I started working at a housing association as what's called a crisis officer, and where I was based was a young people's housing scheme where 16 to 25-year-olds were housed if they were homeless. It was a brand new block of flats, beautiful place, and these guys came from all sorts of backgrounds. Some of them were neglected, some of them had been moved away from their family, some of them were care leavers. Quite an eclectic bunch of people, some of which had some really major issues, and as part of the crisis, as the role as the crisis officer, it was my job to deal with the crises as they happened, which include everything from mental health, like people trying to commit suicide, to them losing jobs, to them having family crises, all of that sort of thing, to try and help them deal with sort of the bad hands that they were given. And again, saw some horrible things, met some amazing people, and learned a hell of a lot. But again, it was just, I decided it was a bit too much. I enjoyed the job, and I found it fairly easy. It was heavy, seeing sort of the harm and upset that people went through, and it used to play on my mind when I came home. But it was shift work, and the money wasn't very good, and I knew that I wanted something more, something that challenged my creative brain. Now in uni, obviously, I'd started my YouTube channel, had the BMW 1 series, and wanted to help people learn how to fix their cars, and that was a big thing that I was doing, starting to earn money by this point. So I decided I wanted to work in the content creation, automotive content creation. If I could do something with cars, then that would be epic. So I spent a lot of time looking at or looking for jobs or opportunities in and around Herefordshire, and there just really wasn't any at all. It was all very based down south, and I just at the time couldn't afford to relocate. Mrs. DL and I had just bought a house, or bought our house, and there really wasn't anything like that I could do near where I was living at the time, or where I live. So I tried all sorts of things. I applied to be a car salesman, and I got really far and actually nearly got a job selling Volvos. And because of COVID, that put stop to that. I contacted all sorts of dealerships, nearly went and worked for a BMW dealership doing content creation, but it never quite came through. And I think there's always a reason for these sort of things. The reason that these things happen, and it's not worth getting frustrated, because eventually if you keep going, there'll always be an opportunity that comes off, and it'll always be the right opportunity. So one day while I was working as the crisis officer and dealing with all sorts of grim and horrible and upsetting, stressful, depressing stuff, I came across a company that wasn't too far from where I lived, a company called Riversimple, who build hydrogen cars, and they didn't have any jobs really advertised, but I emailed them and asked if they had anything going, and I was very lucky that they came back and said, you know what, with your skill set, with your YouTube and your ability to sort of deal with things and your sort of general knowledge of cars, why don't you come along and have a chat, and we will see if you're the right fit. So, cut a long story short, I went over there and got along with the people like a house on fire. So Riversimple, if you don't know, build hydrogen cars. They are a car company based entirely around sustainability. Everything from their business model to the way they build the cars to obviously the way they fuel the cars is all about sustainability. So they follow a circular business model and everything like that. And I was very lucky because I got to really learn a lot from their comms director there. She had a very long career. She was married to the founder, Hugo Spowers, who she imparted a lot of her knowledge, and within the 2 years that I was there, or 19 months, really learned a trade that I could take anywhere, and I'm extremely thankful for them taking a punt on me, and the fact that everything worked out. It was a brilliant job, and that's what I've been doing for the past 2 years, working with the next generation of automotive sustainable cars. So they've got the Riversimple browser. You can Google all this. If you type in riversimple.com, all the information's there. And actually, I designed the website, so the website you'll be on will be the one that I made this time last year, actually. And it really was an amazing place to work, to be at the forefront of technology. I mean, these cars were made completely of carbon fibre. They use capacitors, in-wheel motors, and a hydrogen fuel cell. They really were, or really are, the pinnacle of automotive technology. So I was involved I managed all of the social media. I dealt with the communication, external communications, both to investors and also supporters and the public and that sort of thing. I worked with mainstream media, BBC, newspapers, all the major newspapers. I'm really trying to spread the word on the amazing things that Riversimple are doing, and it really was sort of a dream job for a 23-year-old who didn't really know what they wanted to do. So I was able to go and drive these. Bear in mind, these cars are there's a handful of these cars available, and they're extremely valued. I was entrusted to go and drive them across Wales, do photo shoots with them. It really was an experience I'll probably never get again, an experience I'm extremely thankful for. It was an amazing time, and just to learn and understand how the automotive industry works, to get all that inside information has been really valuable. Now, in the meantime, I'm still doing my special constabulary policing work, and I got trained as a roads policing officer. I got to experience what it was like to charge across the county, responding to all sorts of incidents. Saw some horrible things on the roads. Saw many people lose their lives in accidents and that sort of thing. But also as a result got a lot of training and a lot of, well, it changed my perspective on life. There's not much now that doesn't really phases me in terms of emergencies or gruesome things or stressful situations. There's not many that I can't deal with as a result of what I've learned with policing. And I think that for me has been one of the most defining things that I've done in my life that's made me who I am as a person. Again, I've seen some horrible things, seen some horrible people, and dealt with it, and it really is eye-opening to see the way people live and treat each other, and see just how precious life is and how quickly it can be taken away. It's amazing. I feel very lucky. Like I said, I'm only 25 now, so to have packed all of this in to 25 years, or really, you think since 18 you have 7 years, don't you? Since now to now, to pack so much in. I think, like I said, I've been extremely fortunate with the opportunities that I've been given, and through that I obviously joined the Institute of Advanced Motorists, and now I'm qualified driving coach with the Institute of Advanced Motorists. That's where my love of driving has been sort of grown from, and I've really just done what I've wanted to do and asked people, and even if there isn't an opportunity obviously available, I've gone to found the right people and asked them, and it's amazing how opportunities can come to you. If you're ever feeling like you're stuck and don't know what to do, just think of what you really want to do, and even if it's being able to speak to someone to ask what you have to do to get qualified to do it. All of these people that you meet are users of Lamborghini, Huracan, Performance, it's got all sorts of crazy stuff on it, on the other side of the road. All these people that you meet are all people who could end up helping you in your career later on. So it's always worth. It's never burned bridges. My parents always told me. So it was both. So where am I now? So I decided to stop being a special constable this year. I've done 5 years with West Mercia Police, and like I said, it's been amazing. Been given so many opportunities. I ended up working after doing the road policing with the rural crime team, which was a Heron, which is probably something that's quite unique to Herefordshire in the way that it's so rural, and we're dealing with poachers, and we're dealing with all sorts of crime, organised crime coming into the countryside, theft of plant machinery, farm machinery, that sort of thing. And learning what I'd done in road policing obviously helped, because half the time these people are in fast cars trying to get away from you, so got quite a few skills that I could use. I got to learn how to do the stinger, which was epic. So the spike strips that you throw in front of cars, I was actually able to do that a fair few times, which was an amazing feeling when you did that. Brought a pursuit to an end just by these people are sped up now. Someone's being lucky. Without anybody getting hurt. It was really cool, to be honest. What I did realise that there's no scarier place on earth than being stood in a live lane of a motorway trying to close it and just praying that people coming towards you are going to see you waving. And that a lot of things that you realise that you would never experience as just a normal general member of the public. It's been awesome, to be honest. It really has. And I decided that what I wanted to focus on was having a bit more time with Mrs. DL. Now she's a dog trainer now, runs her own dog training business, and I've now left Riversimple, and I wanted to focus on having a better work-life balance. Thank you, Mr. BMW. Because I feel like over the last sort of 7 years I've just been flat out doing all sorts of things, being here, there and everywhere, and actually I want to focus on things at home and spending time with people. So I've met a lot of amazing friends, doing all the jobs I do or I've done, and I think it's time now just to focus on it and focus on my YouTube channel, give you guys more content, and all of that sort of thing. So I've actually left I left Riversimple at the end of April for that very reason, and I'm still, the job I do now, I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing because it's still involved. So what I was trying to say before the GoPro overheated was that yeah, my new job is in sort of the policing realm, so I won't talk too much about that just because we're not allowed really, but it's combining the two, the sort of communications and media side of things with policing. So it's yeah, it's my second week and I'm really enjoying it, but it does mean that I have to drive down to Surrey once a week, which is absolutely fine, to be honest. It's nice to have the van in regular use. It's obviously really good for the van to be doing long motorway miles like this, and it's handy because when Mrs. Deanne and I are building the van, I can sort of, I've got more of an idea now of what we need to do to make it easy to live with, so which is ideal really. But what all of this means is now I've got more time to spend on the channel to bring you guys some better, more interesting content, and actually I want to engage with you a bit more on a personal level, which is why I'm going to start these videos, because I think it's a good way of you guys getting to know me a bit more, especially now the channel's growing. We're nearly 13,000 subscribers, so I feel like you should, if that many of you guys are watching, you should at least know a bit about who you're watching. So yeah, that's probably it for today's edition of question time. But what I'll do is, if you stick comments in the comment box down below, let me know what you'd like to know, what you'd like me to go into depth about, then I would be more than happy, within reason of course, to share that with you guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If you made it this far, thank you, and thank you for the continued support as well from all of you. It really does mean a lot. Just to think that, you know, my hometown where I grew up has a population of 8,000. So imagine my entire town and a half watching my videos. Just seems crazy to me. But thank you all so much for tuning in each time. It really is amazing. So yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy. Cheers.